So we are the Digital Overlay team. Once again, we conducted 10 interviews this week. We were fortunate enough to go to Fort Meade on this past Friday, which we will touch on more in a second. We've been in touch with our sponsors and our mentors throughout the week. And our How Might We question this week is how might we improve cross-communication between different intelligence gatherers?
So we came to this new How Might We question after having the opportunity to go visit Fort Meade. This gave us an opportunity to talk to a variety of stakeholders within the intelligence gathering community and kind of reporters. While we were there, we got to interview lieutenant colonels in the intelligence community. We went to all sourcers, or the people that kind of synthesize intel reports. We were able to talk to people that actually collect the intelligence in different kind of domains, whether it's signal or if it's like human intelligence gatherers. And from there, we kind of were able to move into our next, our comic, which was we call it the all-source origins. This kind of, after visiting Fort Meade, it gave us the opportunity to kind of hone in on, out of the list of problems that we were kind of identifying under the field of our problem, of information being gathered by different kind of domains and, service members. And let's say for a tank, for example, a tank will also give out a digital signal, for example, and then a human intel gatherer will also see the tank. But now, when they're reporting in, one person is just saying, I see this massive amount of signal coming from a tank, and then one person is saying, oh, I just see a tank. But there isn't kind of that cross-communication that's occurring, which allowed us to kind of hone in on the fact that different intel groups, before they kind of report into an all-sourcer, that there isn't a lot of collaboration occurring.
So I'm Mark, an engineering major.
Elizabeth Nursing. Teresa Writing.
Nahum Engineering.
Anthony CIS. And Dalton Biology.
So this week we had a really big theme going on, especially after visiting Fort Meade, which is don't go geek too early. A lot of this is information that's technical and specialized to the people who are gathering it, and they don't quite know how to merge it all together for the commander to really get a full picture without losing one or the other. So a few huge pains and huge gains that we kind of took away from our information this week was a lack of synthesis data, a lack of understanding between sections and jobs, and then the personal preference comes underneath that because certain sections like to use certain programs and they don't always translate well to each other. A few gains that if we could solve these pains that come from it was clear, concise information sharing, data verification, and smooth transitions when you're going from one commander to another or one mission to another.
So one of our hypotheses that we tested out this week was is there an overarching program that combines all this information into one place? And the answer is yeah, there is one. It's called D6A. It's made for the Army. It's basically a huge overlay map that takes all this information from all the different information gatherers and puts it in one. The problem is that it's not user-friendly according to some of our interviews, and we want to dig deeper into why it's not user-friendly.
And our second hypothesis is there continuous crosstalk between different sections of intelligence? And that's kind of, that was denied. We thought that was kind of not true. And that there's just no, like kind of Mark said, there's no understanding between the different types of communications. So one, like Nahum said as well, one of the S2s we talked to, he could see a lot of data coming from a certain area and could probably assume that it was a tank, but he wasn't 100% sure that it was a tank. When you're looking at one of the members, and they can actually visualize and see that it is an actual tank, and they don't see the data coming from the tank. So a better way to aggregate that and make it easier to comprehend.
Yeah, and our final hypothesis, which carries over from last week, is our problem data visualization? And it's confirmed. It is mostly data visualization. It's that condensed. We're taking all the information gathered from all the different sources, and we're having one uniform symbology that they can all understand. And we're planning on researching what's being currently used right now and how can we make it a little bit more clear.
So this is our mission model canvas. We've continued with the idea that our beneficiaries are our intel analysts, our private sector companies, and our commanding officers. We're focusing currently on our intel analysts, and our value propositions for the intel analysts are to develop enemy personas, to develop sequels, and then to coordinate with other officers to make the cohesive.
So also this week, we zeroed in on another potential customer beneficiary of our system, which is the All-Source Intelligence Officer. The All-Source Intelligence Officer's job is ultimately to assimilate all the information he's getting from the signal intelligence guys, the human intelligence guys, whatever other intelligent guys are out there, and provide the commander with an environment that he can plan against. And his biggest pain to that, as has been mentioned numerous times, is the crosstalk. There is no real understanding between these intelligence silos, if you will.
So again, here's our customer workflow. It's very similar, but one major change that we've had is that there is different sectors of intelligence. So there's human, there's intel, like cyber, there's all these different forms of intel, and that goes into their respective silos and then comes together with the all source, which then gets forwarded up to the chain of command.
So based upon our interviews, we've revised our minimal viable project yet again. In today's world, we don't really live in one world, we live in two, the physical and the digital. Our current solution is a symbology which adds on to the current military symbology standards to represent a unit's existence within this digital realm, both on social media and signal-wise. In the end, this should help the commander understand the impacts his units are having in the electromagnetic world, as well as be able to identify the electromagnetic high ground that he needs to take.
So looking to next week, we are going to verify our problems that we compiled from our visit to Fort Meade and try and narrow our scope in reference to the actual issue that we're solving.
And begin the process of concept generation and prototypes. And lastly, enjoy spring break to the best of our
All right, you guys, nice job, guys. You really have a few seconds left, so great job. 1, 2, 3. See you guys.
So it looks like we're kind of swinging back to a kind of a traditional layered map MVP, right? Rather than this kind of like super cool 3D like lollipops thing that was going on for a couple of weeks, right?
Correct. Yeah. One of the feedback things that we got is like we don't want to go geek too early. You don't want to make it so complicated and diverse and like different from what they're used to right now that nobody's going to use it. So you got to really take that into account when making a
And I think it's what they already kind of know. Like they gave us the example at Fort Meade a lot of the digital, like a sandbox, where they would draw out their map and their mission, whatever they're doing in the ground.
And very quick follow-up then. We're also pretty clear that there are all sorts of different kinds of information, that we're looking at different layers on this map.
Yeah.
There's not going to be one story that tells everything. You've got to be able to click in to one layer and it's going to tell one story, and then click into another layer and it's going to tell another story, right? So just, if you're going to start wireframing, sketching stuff up, you should look at, well, ArcGIS is an obvious one, but there's a fairly steep learning curve. OpenStreetMap is going to be a good opportunity for you to do some mapping work where you can create layers pretty easily. And grab me when we're in group work and I'll show you a couple of examples of that, because there's people on campus working on historical maps that do exactly that with those different kinds of layers.
I've experience with ArcGIS, and from my kind of understanding what some of the problems were is when, let's say, a signal intelligence person is looking at the tank example, they're not seeing a tank, they're seeing a massive, let's say, he said, a screen with zeros, ones, and depending on like the configuration of those, he'd be able to kind of hone in on like, this is maybe like the type of thing that you're looking at, but then the human intelligence guy is able to say, no, that is a tank, because they're actually seeing it, right? But that's one case. But then now let's say you have a small building, and the signals guy is able to say, you have a massive amount of data that is coming from that building that looks like a rundown shack. And then, but the human intelligence guy is saying, no, that's just a rundown shack, that's like nothing. we don't need to worry about that. So, but there isn't that cross communication before all the information goes into the all source for them to realize, oh wait, do I need to go investigate even more?
So near the end, you said you were, the example you gave about your MVP was largely about the electromagnetic space. Is that what you're focusing on? Is that really understanding the data transfer, or is it everything?
Cyber warfare actually kind of covers all of that, from the classical radio signals to, yes, packet switch data now.
Okay, but you're focusing on that aspect, not on, so the tank, and just
Yes.
the tank example
It's not
kind of
necessarily.
throws off
The symbology and visualization for the tank already exists.
right, okay, so you're using that, okay. That helps me understand what you're trying to visualize.
I like this visual. I think it's pretty. I can't see the font, and I'm not sure it really deepened my understanding of what you're doing. Perhaps a bit more explanation on that, and if I could see the words, I think that would be helpful too. But especially the ones in that little right-hand side, yeah, right there. I can understand that I wouldn't, be able to see all of the country and whatnot, but to be able to see that might be useful to figure out what you're portraying.
Kind of tying in with that, if your solution is going to be visualization, focusing on that, I think it's really important for you to tighten up your visuals in your presentation. So it's really tighten your own data visualization, your images as you go through it.
All right, good job, guys. Work.
1, 2, 3.